Hello and welcome. As US President Donald Trump's 50% tariffs take effect, 50% tariffs on India, what really is the impact, or what really is the impact, and how is this going to hurt or benefit consumers, economists, and investors alike? Remember, Prime Minister Modi has been saying that look, India is going to be self reliant. Of course, the GST reform push is also underway. So, of course, to decode all of this, I am joined by Peter McGuire, CEO of AustraliaTrading.com, and Senior Economist Mitali Nikore. Thank you both for your time. Mitali, Trump's 50% tariffs now officially take effect. How is this going to impact all stakeholders? What must India watch out for?
So, Sakshi, of course, this is something that we've been covering for the last 6 months. And this was the situation that all economists, that all analysts, everybody wanted this situation to not arise. But here we are. And in this situation, I think what becomes very, very critical is to start identifying at a micro level which are the sectors and which are the clusters that will face the maximum impact in the immediate 3 months and 6 months and provide financial support to these clusters and sectors. And at this point in time, the government is also thinking about a financial support package. But I think the biggest impact in the immediate short term breaks down into three parts. The first is inventory pile up, right? A lot of people have been manufacturing goods for orders that were placed, especially in the textile sector, in the leather sector, in the gems and jewelry sector. Now, some of those orders are being renegotiated. I've had discussions with a number of people from MSMEs and industries, and the costing is being renegotiated. In order for inventory pileup to be avoided, it is important for these MSMEs to be able to access working capital loans or emergency financing for working capital. And I think this is really where the government can step in. The second aspect is really around diversification and looking for new markets that can, the government support these MSMEs to find new markets and these clusters to diversify even into domestic markets. And thirdly, for the government to work with other countries and open up new markets for India the way the UK FTA has done, we can do that with other countries as well. So, definitely a lot of steps to be taken.
A lot of steps to be taken. Peter, your first thoughts on Trump's 50% tariffs on India taking effect. Of course, we do know, as Mitali was saying, that the sectoral impact really will need to be watched out for. Remember, this additional 25% is coming as a penalty for India buying oil from Russia. India, of course, saying this is a perplexing logic altogether, and therefore India is feeling targeted. Your first thoughts on how this will impact all stakeholders as well as oil prices going forward?
Well, Sakshi, good morning. And there's no doubt, it will impact India. There is no way out of this. And when you're looking at and building on our conversation, you're looking at clothes to diamonds to shrimp, you name it, all the exports. And that is very much an export-driven economy in the sense that US consumer is the number one consumer in the world. They've got the deepest pockets and they've got a love affair with Indian goods. You've only got to go to Jaipur and look at the emeralds and look at the jewelry manufacturing. You've only got to look at tourism. You've only got to look at so many different components. The love affair is very much there, and I can't see that waning anytime soon. The penalty, I think, is incredibly harsh, and I think that there is some comfort that this 50% may be narrowed back to 25 once this war situation comes to an end between Ukraine and Russia. Let's park that anyway. So as it moves forward, Prime Minister Modi, I know he's looked at changing as far as GST and refining that process. He needs to galvanize the economy and get the consumption internally or naturally look at other markets. That's not an easy task when you've got 340 million people that have got very deep pockets with a relatively strong US dollar. That's incredible buying power. So all of these factors need to be considered, and one would hope that it will be far more, maybe a chance to be renegotiated down the line, and but there will be a degree of hurt, and naturally one would expect crude prices to take a a softer stance leading into Q4.
Right. So, Mitali, we continue to hope for the best even now. But the fact of the matter is the additional tariffs on India were announced by Trump as a penalty for buying oil from Russia, a move that India has repeatedly called unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable. Now, does this mean that there will be a sharp escalation, as well? Now, this sharp escalation in tariffs also setting up a period of economic friction between the two major trading partners then? And do you think GST reforms will be able to really trump this, tariff scenario really for India altogether?
No, absolutely, Sakshi. I think the GST reforms were, in any case, set of reforms that we had been speaking about. I think both you and I had been discussing as well for several quarters that the GST reforms are key for reigniting growth within the economy, within the domestic economy. So it's great timing in terms of making sure that the GST reforms should take effect now, so that it really reignites that domestic economic engine. But I think that moving forward, we can't lose sight of the fact that the U.S. exports are only a small portion of our export basket, and in fact, every country is currently working on diversification. There is no country which is taking the U.S. consumer as given today. And the second point is that the impact of the tariff is not only felt by the exporter but also by the importer. I've spoken to a number of sourcers, for textile products, which work across countries and especially across South Asia. And many of them have, evinced the fact that a lot of the price increases are being passed on to the US consumer. So this pain that is being felt is not only being felt at the exporter or supplier side, but is ultimately being borne by the US consumer, which will, start to show in the inflation numbers, is already starting to show in the inflation numbers. And that will have an impact on the global economy. So at the end of the day, the slowdown that we are expecting would maybe come in say 1 to 2 quarters when the price rises start to take effect in the US markets. So, at this point in time, we have to brace and we have to make sure that the domestic economy is extremely strong and our trade relationships with other countries and other regions are extremely strong.
Absolutely. Peter, do you agree this will in turn have a global impact? Your thoughts on how this will impact consumers, equity analysts, also tracking the equity space, investors at large, precious metals, oil going forward?
Well, yes, actually, I mean, there is going to be hurt. There is no doubting that. And there's been many lenses that we've looked through. I listen to world acclaimed economists, including my fellow guest here today. I listen to the likes of Scott Bessent and, of course, Howard Lutnick. I listen to President Trump. Everyone has a different viewpoint as far as who is going to be responsible for the tariff. Is it going to be the US consumer? Mm-hmm. And many are saying yes. And there's a parcel of President Trump's administration saying, no, that's not going to be the case. It's going to be felt by the country that is exporting those goods to America. It's not going to be felt and President Trump has a clear mandate, and that is to minimize the impact to the US consumer. Now, that seems to be the course of event. He's got some massive tax cuts coming, and that's been very well received across his whole constituents. So the next part is, where does it roll as far as a deliverable, and whether this is going to be the long-term event over the rest of this administration? I would say yes. And are these other countries going to be renegotiated as far as percentages, or is this set in stone? So again, this is a very dynamic situation, and I don't think anyone's got the rule book to see how it's actually going to play out.
Absolutely. No one's really got the rule book on this, but Trump's 50% tariffs on India have now officially taken effect, and we will continue to track how, of course, equity markets in India react come tomorrow, as well as how this pans out for not just India's economy, but global economies going forward. Thank you both for your time and for this interaction. Thank you.